Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dungeon Masters, storytellers, and all of that jazz. I'm Jonathan Albin, and this is World Building Made Easier. We're going to be talking about some whole new processes that others may not have heard of or thought of before, and that I've been using for a long time, but I hadn't quantified it. So now that we have quantified it and defined it, I want to share it with you all. This will be including not only the abstract discussion of world building, but I'll also be in a little while activating my WonderDraft software and doing some map building. But I want to first talk about ways to look at role play and world building in particular in perhaps a new way that you may not have thought of before. And that is to think of your location as a persona, as a character, if you will, in the story. If you have an idea of what the physical place looks like, if you have an idea of what the environment feels like, and you have an idea of the motivations of the locals to do whatever they're doing, despite or perhaps because of the characters in the story, you have an idea of what that town's personality is like. I remember when I was a young man, my dad telling me stories from that was weird, from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And in that story, there was an example that he gave of a persona a character in the story who was relating the way things worked in the game that setting. And he said, once upon a time, there was a gentleman who sat at the city gate, an aged man, a wise man, and he was asked. He would always watch the people going in and out of town, and each day he would approach the people of the town and ask them questions. And in this case, he asked a young man he saw coming into town how he fared. And the young man said, "Well, I'm coming into the city, and I'm concerned. I would like to know what the people in this community are like and what kind of life I can expect to have." And the old man says, "Well, tell me a bit about the town from which you come." And so the young man explained that he was a fairly prosperous businessman, that he had grown bigger than his expectations and was far and away ahead of where he thought he might be in life. And so he was expecting to come to this new place and had always been kind to everyone around him and had been treated with respect. And upon hearing this, the old man nodded and smiled, clapped the young man on the shoulder, and says, "Then you will do fine, just fine here. Be well and enjoy your travels in this new community." Shortly after, he runs into a second man, and he asks the same question of this new young fellow: "How do you fare, young man?" The young man says, "Well, I'm coming to this city because I needed to get away from the place that I was before, and I'm hoping to find a better life." And the old man says, "Well, please then tell me about the city you came from." And the guy says, "Well, I've had a rough time. Every place I've ever gone, people have distrusted me. They have treated me badly. They've cheated me. I've never been able to get a straight shot anywhere. Every time I try to build something up, other people tear it down, and the road has been really rough, and so I'm hoping to find a better place here." And the old man thinks for a minute and says, I'm sorry, son, but whatever your condition was before, I'm afraid that you'll find the situation here is even worse. It's horrible, and it's just not going to be safe for you. This is not going to be a good occupation." And so the young man, feeling badly, turned away from his course. Well, having heard these two stories going on, a local person comes up to the old sage and says, "I'm sorry, why did you give the advice that you did And the guy says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, in the first case, you heard the person tell you he had a happy life and a very profitable one, and you told him that he was going to find the same here. But in almost the same breath as you spoke to the second person who said he had a tough life, you told him he would have no chance here. Why would you do that?" And he says, "Well, what I have found is no matter where you go in this life, there's where you will be. So if you are in a situation where you're having troubles and challenges and you remain in that place, you will always face those same challenges. And then if you are a person that can overcome challenges and get past the difficulties in life, then no matter where you go, that'll be always the case." And so in this case, when I'm speaking of your locations as a character, what I'm referring to is that very state. If you have players who want to be a part of the story and are willing to do whatever it takes to improve the community and make it for a better place, then naturally the sessions are going to be dynamic and exciting, and they're going to engage with the community, and they're going to enhance and build both the character's advancement and the city's advancement over time, because it's naturally going to profit from the success of the adventuring group. So naturally the one will feed the other, and so the persona can be pursued in terms of building a character. And I'll endeavor to prove that to you by tomorrow or so. I'll bring up a persona sheet, a character sheet, and we will actually build a community based on the personality of a person and show you how that specific locale can be defined by the personality of its environs. There are plenty of movies and songs and such that refer to this kind of thinking, that the city you live in is a living, breathing thing, and that you can interact with it and appreciate it, enjoy it, love it, care for it, and embrace it, increasing its profitability and advancing it. Or you can treat it like a cast off and treat it with disrespect and find yourself in more and more trouble because of that. So we'll go into that in tomorrow's session. I'm working on developing the persona sheet to go with that. And as I'm not seeing an immediate jump into communication with people at this point, I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing, which is cut this communication until tomorrow, where we have the persona sheet and we can go over it. And I will be on in a little while with the map, and we will continue our regular world building for the evening. This is Jonathan Albin, and this has been Nikos RPG World Building Made Easy.